Hi everybody, it's Gina here at the Library Mouse. Welcome to Tag Tuesday. And I'm very happy to get back to doing tags again. And I thought this one is the perfect tag to start back jumping into it. And it is the big 6-0 book tag, celebrating 60 years of reading. This is an original book tag created by Suey over at Suey's Book Banter. So thank you for tagging me. How appropriate. I am also the big 6-0. So yeah, happy birthday. Anyway, here are the prompts from the tag, the big 6-0 book tag. And I love this prompt. It made me think about some books I haven't thought of in a while. Anyway, the first question is, what is a comfort read you will never outgrow? So I have a few comfort reads. Number one is Little Women. I have read that book more times than you can imagine. And it all started when I got my first copy of it when I turned 9 years old. And that book literally fell to pieces. And I still enjoy Little Women. Another book that I've read multiple times is historical fiction family saga called A Lantern in Her Hand by Bess Streeter Aldridge. It is the story of one woman and her life as a pioneer, and kind of tackles the thought of what you think you are going to be and what you hope your life is like, and then circumstances happen and how differently your life actually turns out. It's such a good book. It's older. I believe it was written in the 1920s, but it is a book. My copy is in pieces, and I love family sagas, and I really love pioneer stories. And I think the dog is going to go crazy in about 2 seconds because the mailman is here. There she goes. The next book that is definitely a comfort read for me is A Year of Pleasures by Elizabeth Berg. She is one of my favorite authors. She is an auto read. I don't necessarily auto buy, but she's definitely an auto read. And A Year of Pleasures follows a woman whose husband has passed away, and she has decided to totally uproot her life and move somewhere different and start over and be aware for a year of all of the small things that are so good about her life, which is why it's called A Year of Pleasures. It's basically her just having gratitude for everything and saying yes to things she would normally say no to. And it's a lovely book, and anything written by Elizabeth Berg is just a lovely book. Okay, so the second prompt is, what is a book that was published in the decade you were born? So I did two different things. I looked at the month and year I was born, which was December of 1964, to find the number one book at that time. And the number one book at that time was Herzog by Saul Bellow. I have never read Herzog. I had to look up what it was about. So it is about a man named Moses Herzog, very intellectual man who's experiencing a personal and professional crisis after his wife leaves him for his best friend. And so it's more of an introspective style of writing, like stream of consciousness, where he includes his thoughts, flashbacks, unsent letters to both real and imaginary figures as he's trying to make sense of his life and the world. It sounds pretty interesting. Then I looked at the whole year. What was the most popular books in the year that I was born? And in 1964, the number one book was The Giving Tree by Shel Silverstein. And the second was Charlie and the Chocolate Factory by Roald Dahl. So lots of great fiction the year that I was born. I had trouble with the third prompt, and the third prompt was, what is a book you would rate 6 stars in a 5-star rating system? I had trouble with that. I went back and I looked through, because I mean, think about all the books you have read in your lifetime. It's hard to remember them all. So I went back and I looked through my reading journals from the last 2 years that I have been doing YouTube. And I think that Demon Copperhead is up there with 6 stars. That book always jumps right out to me whenever I talk about a book that is memorable. But I also really love Frozen River by Ariel Lawhorn. I thought that was a great historical fiction book. And I gave it 5 stars. I gave Demon Copperhead 5 stars. If I had to push it to 6, I would. But those are the books that stood out the most in my head for the last couple of years. I did love the women. I don't know if I would give it 6 stars. So that is what I would give 6 stars to. The next prompt is, what is a favorite book from your 6 most read genres? So I'm like, oh, do I read 6 genres? And so I narrowed it down, historical, middle grade, contemporary women's fiction, self-help, dystopian, suspense. Is that 6? Historical, middle grade, contemporary, self-help, dystopian, suspense. Yes. Now, obviously, I read a lot more of some than the others, but for historical fiction, I'm only traveling back to the 70s, and I adored this book when I read it. I need to find the author. It is a coming-of-age story about a girl named Mary Jane. It is written by Jessica Anya Blau. It's a coming-of-age story about a girl named Mary Jane. She is a Jewish girl raised in a very strict household, and she is hired to help, like be a mother's helper to a new family on the street who are hippies. He's a psychologist or psychiatrist, and wow, they're very, very free-loving people, and she learns a lot by being a mother's helper in this family, and she starts to question like her own upbringing, what's right, what's wrong, and she starts to question like the narrow-mindedness of her parents. Such a good book, especially if you grew up in that time period. It's like a trip down memory lane. So I loved Mary Jane. One of my standout middle grades, and I have read a lot of middle grades. I love middle grade books and authors. But one of my favorite and one of my classroom favorites was Because of Winn-Dixie by Kate DiCamillo. It is about a girl who finds a dog at the Winn-Dixie, hence the name of the dog. She's new in town, and she's just trying to fit in, and she's trying to make friends. And the theme of the book is loving your neighbor, accepting people for who they are, whether they're quirky or strange. It's such a great book, and every year I read that book to my 3rd grade, and we did, we studied it, and it was a book that they always remembered. Even if, like the next year I had them for 4th grade, which I did a lot of times, they'd be like, oh, remember in Winn-Dixie? And there was a word they always remembered, which was melancholy. And we talked about that word. It came up in Winn-Dixie, and Even when I had them the next year, they would use melancholy frequently in their discussions. So I love that book. And the movie was so good too. The next category is self-help. I've read a lot of self-help books. Most of them, I love getting them. I love reading them. I can't say that I get a lot out of them. I did enjoy The Let Them Theory by Mel Robbins. That's a top book. What is the book by Marie Kondo, which was, the organization book? That was excellent. And I did get a lot from that book. The life-saving magic of tidying up. It was such a good book. Why can't I think of the name of that book? I'm actually on her website and the book isn't even named here. The life-changing magic of tidying up. You know what I mean. That book was very good. That book was very good. I really enjoyed Atomic Habits. I thought that it wasn't revolutionary, but it was a good reminder. Oh, and the other one is The Blue Zones. The Blue Zones book was very interesting. Pair it with the documentary. Yeah, that book was very helpful. Probably the most helpful of all of them. So, dystopian. I do like a good dystopian read. I did love The Handmaid's Tale, but I didn't love it as much as the first book of The Hunger Games. I loved the first book. I did not love the rest of the series. I have not read the last one yet, but I really enjoyed the writing style of the author of The Hunger Games, Suzanne Collins, I believe it is. But I think that was one of my favorites. As a middle grade, young adult book, The Girl Who Ran the City was also an excellent, excellent dystopian novel. And finally, we have suspense. Okay, so last but not least, I decided to change from suspense to contemporary fiction because I wanted to get this book in here. And it is Eleanor Oliphant is Completely Fine, one of my very favorite books. I love it. I love Eleanor. I love the writing. I love the friendship. It is written by Gail Honeyman and such a good book. So those are my top favorite books in those 6 genres. Okay, last but not least, a book that I would recommend for the upcoming generations, I would say please read The Handmaid's Tale and The Testaments by Margaret Atwood. Right, Henry? Read it. Let it sink in. Look around at what's happening and decide if that is the kind of future that you would like. So, thanks for tagging me, Suey, and happy birthday. And I will see you on the next video. Happy reading.